My name is Charles Anselmo, photographer, and I'm happy to contribute to the series of Gallery Route 1 artist videos. I want to talk a little bit about my work today, and let me begin by giving you a little bit of background. As a young person, I was given by my artistic painter mother to be submitted to all the terrors and the benefits of a formal arts education. I became a painter at an early age and painted for many years. At a certain point in 1999, I was actually using the lens I had used after learning about Manet's fascination for painting haystacks again and again to conduct light studies. I had been using the camera to do this with my own subject in an industrial vein. I preferred photographing again and again oil tanks to study light. And this was actually very informative. I had actually gone to Bryce Canyon, where I was bitten by a rattlesnake, and my arts career was very much diverted because of this, for various reasons, much more deeply into photography, and utterly gave myself to the lens, became very serious as a self-taught, film-only analog photographer, which I remain to this day. I have my own feelings about the digital world, and I understand that as you come from themes and ideas that are inherently of an analog world, and I do mean broken structure and interiors, antiquity, decay, and what it is exactly becomes of our cities, these places to me seem to beg the analog process. I produce only color images. I use large and medium format photography. It is laborious and expensive. It is what I will always do. Ultimately, that diversion into more deeply into photography led me to explore similar sites that I explored in painting. And these are the peripheral urban spaces and areas architecturally that had been in an advanced state of decline, whether they're in the United States or elsewhere. I ventured to Cuba for the first time in year 2000 and was admitted into an extraordinary world just rife with color and antiquity and just a fascinating access to the art world. I became very involved in ensuing years with the Cuban arts bureaucracy, have taught at two major art schools, one the Academia San Alejandro, Cuba's oldest art school, now 200 years old, and have exhibited at all of Cuba's major arts venues. And I was the second US citizen to ever exhibit at the Fototeca de Cuba. So these series, these portfolios, which I work on through the years, have now continued through 20 years, more than 70 visits, and innumerable conversations and alliances with people in the arts, curators, art critics, and many others. In the course of exhibiting there, I came to realize that my love for these places just like this, really drew me to a sense of scale. I, to say the least, love large images. I do all my own printing, and in fact, I run a digital printing workshop. The process of exhibiting so far away, when you want images that are 10 feet across, it has its problems. So I was able to develop with a company in California a silk medium. It would accept digital prints. Again, I have my feet in two worlds. I capture analog on film in large and medium format, but that film is scanned and processed digitally, and then I do print using modern technical tools. So I began to print on silk fabric. These images are 10 feet across. I can fit 20 of them at least in a shoebox, just piled loosely, that goes in my suitcase, that is on the plane with me at all times. This is an extraordinary resolution to a big problem. It has had a certain amount of press in Cuba, and I'm a little bit known as the person who does the silk work, maybe as the crazy Californian too. I have worked with so many people there, and I have come to realize that I don't meet many people who have had quite such a depth of experience. And it is the value of coming back all those times, more than 70 times. The spaces that I find there endlessly lend themselves to my ideas that I pursue here in the US. We're looking at derelict spaces that are transformed through time, where we begin to appreciate the meanings that stem from the intersection of memory and social context. These are city images, because my calling really is to the city its histories, its architectures, and really the intent that was put there by people who were really designing something. We are endlessly curious creatures. We build, we throw away. It is what we do. It's true in all of our cities. So the leavings, the castings off, what we no longer wish to keep, this is where you'll find me. I like to look at what was before. And as well, I like to appreciate the extent to which perfection is transformed into something that is particulate and broken. And in there, you will see the meanings of the human order. You will see the meanings that really make us who we are. These are the subjects I wish to pursue. The experience in Cuba gave me the foundations for what I would call my documentary practice. That practice is based upon a few things that really do explicitly stem from the Cuba work, which is very exciting. That is that there seemed to be a kind of inherent duality in this approach that I was doing. So coming from the fine arts background, I spent a lot of time with the technicalities of painting and really believed in the fine art precision of doing good, precise work, and learned that this may have something to do with what we call a fine arts approach. I wanted to bring that approach to a social documentary context. And so my work becomes a kind of seduction, because if you look at it carefully, my hope is that you'll be pulled in by the richness of color, the fragmentation of the surfaces, the texture, the inherent design aspects, and then realize, after having been pulled in, as it were, somewhat enticed by this appealing presentation, you would then be settled with, oh, but something happened here. And that heaviness is where I'm hoping the visitor will rest. I'm hoping that perception will actually rest on that point. But I feel that we have to sort of, tease people in a bit and then give them something that is, and I'm always looking for that moment of recognition when people look at my work. The silk work addressed that even more so, because the silk work involves another inherent dualism. And this is a dialectic between masculine and feminine. And so in so viewing the very heavy masculine nature of the stone and the masonry, it seemed really an interesting contradiction to present it in this very feminine, ephemeral, kind of gossamer, translucent medium that is endlessly wafting. The least movement in the room will be reflected in this gentle wafting of the silk prints, because they're hanging free, they're not contained, they're not behind glass, they're just open. And I actually encourage visitors to touch them. But I think that these dualisms really are things that create a sort of inner tension, and in so doing, a sense of manifest interest. And I'm hoping to do more than just, display interesting places, but also present a kind of provocation where the thinking is of several steps in an attempt to get people to really think about what we are doing with these places, these cities that we have made.